Tonight, history on the Hill as House Democrats make their case against President Trump in the first public impeachment hearing in 20 years.
Is this what Americans should now expect from their president? If this is not impeachable conduct, what is?
Democrats relying on two top career diplomats to spell out a quid pro quo. Much of the focus on that July phone call where President Trump asked Ukraine's President Zelensky for investigations into the Bidens and the 2016 election. But tonight, Taylor revealed another conversation involving President Trump the next day that he says a staffer recently told him about, with Trump donor turned diplomat Gordon Sondland.
The member of my staff could hear President Trump on the phone asking Ambassador Sondland about the investigations. Ambassador Sondland told President Trump the Ukrainians were ready to move forward. Following the call with President Trump, the member of my staff asked Ambassador Sondland what President Trump thought about Ukraine. Ambassador Sondland responded that President Trump cares more about the investigations of Biden.
It's a call Sondland never mentioned in his own testimony, and a conversation getting to the heart of the Democrats' argument that military aid to Ukraine and a coveted White House meeting were being withheld until Ukraine publicly announced the investigation into the president's political rival.
Neither of these investigations was in the U.S. national interest. Both, however, were in Donald Trump's personal interest.
Have you ever seen another example of foreign aid conditioned on the personal or political interests of the President of the United States?
No, Mr. Goldman, I've not.
The hearing testy at times.
You yourself, Mr. Chairman, have mischaracterized the call. In fact, in the first open hearing, you had a parody.
The gentlewoman will suspend.
With Republicans from the start denouncing the entire episode as a partisan sham.
I'd like to congratulate you for passing the Democrat Star Chamber auditions held for the last weeks in the basement of the Capitol. It seems you agreed, witting or unwittingly, to participate in a drama. But the main performance, the Russia hoax, has ended, and you've been cast in the low-rent Ukrainian sequel.
Taylor going back 1 week before that July phone call, recalling a video conference where he says he sat in astonishment when an unidentified budget office staffer said the aid to Ukraine had been frozen without explaining why.
All that the OMB staff person said was that the directive had come from the president to the chief of staff to OMB. In an instant, I realized that one of the key pillars of our strong support for Ukraine was threatened.
And weeks after that call, Taylor recounting this conversation with Gordon Sondland.
Ambassador Sondland told me that President Trump had told him that he wants President Zelensky to state publicly that Ukraine will investigate Burisma and alleged Ukrainian interference in the 2016 election. Ambassador Sondland said everything was dependent on such an announcement, including security assistance. He said that President Trump wanted President Zelensky in a public box by making a public statement about ordering such investigations.
Senior State Department official George Kent also questioning the role of the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani.
Giuliani's efforts to gin up politically motivated investigations were now infecting U.S. engagement with Ukraine, leveraging President Zelensky's desire for a White House meeting.
But Republicans defended the president.
Where is the impeachable offense in that call?
Saying he could not be threatening to withhold military aid because Taylor testified Ukraine did not know aid was being withheld until weeks after that July call, and that ultimately the aid was given to Ukraine without the investigations President Trump requested.
Were you wrong when you said you had a clear understanding that President Zelensky had to commit to an investigation of Biden's before the aid got released, and the aid got released and he didn't commit to an investigation?
Mr. I was not wrong about what I told you, which is what I heard. That's all I've said. I've told you what I heard.
And that's the point. What you heard did not happen. It didn't happen. You didn't listen on President Trump's call and President Zelensky's call?
I did not.
You've never talked with Chief of Staff Mulvaney?
I never did.
You never met the president?
That's correct.
So this is what I can't believe, and you're their star witness.
Republicans also defending President Trump's push to investigate Hunter Biden, who was given a job with the Ukrainian company Burisma while Joe Biden was vice president, something Kent questioned back in 2015.
I raised my concern that Hunter Biden's status as a board member could create the perception of a conflict of interests. Let me be clear, however, I did not witness any effort by any U.S. official to shield Burisma from scrutiny.
Both career diplomats saying they were not seeking the spotlight and pushing back against that early morning attack from President Trump that they're never Trumpers.
Mr. Kent, are you a never Trumper?
I am a career non-professional who serves whatever president is duly elected, and I've done that for 27 years for 3 Republican presidents and 2 Democrat presidents.
Ambassador Taylor, are you a never Trumper?
No, sir.
The question tonight, will any of this sway divided Americans? Testifying Friday, the former ambassador to Ukraine, and just added the State Department official who overheard that newly revealed call with President Trump. He will testify behind closed doors.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.